So Diablo 4 just came out, sort of, and millions of lonely guys and gals all over the world are wondering if this is the game that's gonna fill that empty spot in their hearts. You've opened your heart up to games and been burned before, but now you're asking yourself, could Diablo 4 be the one? Well, listen close and I'll tell you if Diablo 4 is worth your time and attention. Diablo 4 is a lot like an old crush you left back in high school who resurfaces a decade later. Sure, you guys had your fun back in the day, but things are different now. They've changed. You've changed. You've had time to experiment with other games and genres, and you're not sure if you'd even like Diablo anymore. Maybe you even dated a game like Diablo for a bit back in college, a game that was a little more hardcore and edgy. Got you to experiment with things you'd never do with Diablo. It was great, at first, but then things got a little intense. Jesus Christ, what is this? Before you've even created a character, they've got you looking up budget builds and gem linking. They got you reading walkthroughs on how to read the walkthroughs, and you're just like, look, you're a nice person, but are you gonna put out anytime soon? Are you gonna turn into a game by the time I'm done looking at this spreadsheet, or are you just leading me on? Maybe these types of games just aren't for you anymore. Besides, the last time you heard about Diablo, they were shaking people down in the middle of the street going, you guys got phones, don't ya? But then you see them, sipping their coffee in the back of a Starbucks. And by see them, I mean watch a trailer, and by Starbucks, I mean IGN. And they're different, prettier than you remember, more mature. They've taken a few new classes, and they're more attentive when you talk to them. That is to say, there's different classes in this game than there were in Diablo 3, and there's character customization now. Look, I'm stretching this gimmick as far as it'll go. I'm gonna start getting a little looser with the dating metaphor here. My point is, Diablo 4 looks great. It has that darker tone and atmosphere that many people thought was missing from the third game. And the graphics are stunning. Unless you're playing a necromancer who literally shits all over the screen. Oh, you're enjoying the graphics? Not anymore! What graphics? You see, what's actually genius about the necromancer's gameplay is that necromancers are typically goth loners that nobody likes. To make you really feel like you're role-playing a character like that, Blizzard made the move Corpse Explosion so visually obnoxious that it guarantees none of your friends will ever want to play with you. It's actually galaxy brain game design. Oh, did your friend unlock a cool new sorcerer ability? Hope they don't like seeing it! Speaking of classes, there aren't more in this game, but there are different ones. The Barbarian and Sorcerer are back from Diablo 3, but the Demon Hunter, Monk, and Witch Doctor have all been replaced with the Rogue, Druid, and Necromancer. Each one feeling like a different flavor of goth. So I hope that's your type, because if you decide that Diablo 4 is worth dating, then you're gonna have to pick one of these classes to date as well. So let's get into them. The Barbarian feels like that kid you knew in high school who was real into weapons, but not real weapons. He'd invite you over to his Red Bull stained, Metallica poster covered room and show you his vast array of weaponry. Only all of those weapons were made of blunt stainless steel and could be found at your local mall for under $30. We always got the sense that just because the weapons are fake, doesn't mean the danger is. The Barbarian likes weapons, so he's got a lot of them. He's got a two-handed bludgeoning, a main hand, an offhand, and a slashing weapon. For those times when you really just want to bludgeon or cut or slash something. This guy is straightforward, brutal, and unhinged. Everybody else uses some type of practiced magic to deal with their enemies, and the Barbarian's He's just smacking them. The Barbarian's the type of guy to show up to a concert way too drunk, dive into the center of the crowd, and then start moshing so hard it makes everybody else regret even buying a ticket. Which is great for players who just want to feel like a hurricane of steel and rage. The Sorcerer is arguably the flashiest class, and makes you feel like a fucking god while playing it. They're pagan goths, who obsess over star signs, burn incense, and leave out bowls of water under full moons to realign their chakras, or whatever. Imagine that sort of vibe, that sort of pseudo-witch you knew back in college. Except now, imagine that they could also shoot lightning from their fingertips. Yeah, I'd be a lot more into my zodiac sign too if it let me summon a fucking flame hydra. The Sorcerer is hype because while every class has multiple possible builds within their kit that all feel very distinct from one another, going from playing a flame sorcerer to an ice sorcerer to an electric sorcerer feels like you're playing 3 different classes entirely. The abilities are so visually satisfying, so exciting to experiment with, that switching up your build feels like a breath of fresh air every time you do it. The Necromancer we kind of already went over. Nobody's gonna want to play with you because Corpse Explosion is so visually crippling, but one of the best moves in your kit. But that's fine, because when all of your friends start ghosting your calls, at least you'll have your bone boys. You see, the Necromancer is sort of like a teenager from the 90s. He used to hang out behind gas stations, stuffing firecrackers inside of frogs. He's a fucking menace to society, is what I'm trying to say. As the Necromancer, you'll be going around blowing up corpses, covering things in blood, and calling up your bone boys to cause some mischief. And they're dope. These guys got your back no matter what. Feel free to whip out your phone and scroll on TikTok for a bit, knowing your homies got your back. Yo, is this dude bothering you, bro? I got you. Don't even worry about it, man. Bone boys stick together. Now, the Rogue is an awesome class, as long as you don't play any of the others. I was having a blast leveling up a rogue for this video, and then I swapped over to another character for a bit. When I came back, I fucking hated it. It was like I took cocaine and rented the movie The Godfather. But then the next day, I tried watching the movie again sober, and realized that what I actually rented was flubber. He pokes. He just pokes. Oh yeah, or he shoots. He pokes and he shoots. You will unlock 2 abilities with the Rogue before it starts feeling like Blizzard ran out of ideas. Oh nice, he throws down some spikes. That'll sting. Ooh, don't step on my little spike or I'll poke ya. Every other class feels like they have this insane build variety. But with the Rogue, here's how it goes with the Rogue. You can poke. And when you get tired of poking, switch up your build and poke. And when you get tired of poking, switch up your build and shoot. And when you get tired of shooting, switch up your build and shoot. Any questions? The Druid is like the mutual friend of the Barbarian and Sorcerer, and the main reason the two ever hang out to begin with. He's a mediator friend. You'll find him pounding back brewskis at a Red Hot Chili Peppers concert with the Barbarian, just as frequently as you'll find him burning sage and looking for psychedelic mushrooms in the forest with the Sorcerer. He also plays like a combination of the 2 classes, marrying the brutality and aggression of the Barbarian with the flashiness and build variety of the Sorcerer. While the Rogue's throwing down caltraps and struggling to come up with different ways to poke people, the Druid's trying to decide whether or not he wants to be a bear, wolf, god of lightning, or all 3. And regardless of whether or not you think the Druid is good, that is an objectively badass decision to have to make. The Druid is the definition of overkill and the synonym of hype. You can turn into a whole-ass grizzly bear, a werewolf, earthbend, airbend, or go around just fucking popping wolves. Okay? Alright, Bear, let's see what you got. Summon wolves, summon ravens, summon a storm. Do you see why I was a little underwhelmed with the Rogue? If the Sorcerer makes you feel like a god, the Druid makes you feel like the devil. Just an absolute nightmare unit, tearing his way through hell. Every class feels fun and satisfying to play, except for the Rogue. And even though I boasted about the Sorcerer's build variety, every class, except for the Rogue, has amazing potential for customization. And thankfully, the skill tree makes it easy to switch up your build on the fly, so you're never stuck using abilities you don't want to. Unless you're playing the Rogue. As for the game's story, it's whatever. It's better than Diablo 3's. But here's the thing. It's as if Diablo grew up wanting to be a writer, and instead of going to screenwriting school, they went to theater camp. The stories they're telling now aren't well written, they're just well told. The voice acting, dialogue, and presentation of the campaign are all exceptional.
Jesus.
The dialogue is grim but flowery, well written, like you're watching a horrifying Shakespearean play unfold. It nails that grim dark tone, and you're always interested to hear what people have to say, even if what they have to say isn't all that interesting.
If you're going to trespass into my home, rifle through my things, then at least have the decency to join me for supper. I'm bloody hungry.
I enjoyed it for what it was, but it's nothing that's gonna leave you gripped on the edge of your seat. But even though Diablo 4's personality may not be anything to write home about, thankfully, the sex is just as good as you remember it. Killing demons feels just as satisfying as ever, if not more so. Classes feel incredibly distinct from one another, not just in terms of gameplay mechanics, but in feel as well. Hacking away at enemies with a Barbarian feels distinct from mauling them with a Druid's bear form or slicing them with a rogue's knives. This is because not only is the sound design crunchier than an episode of Dragon Ball Z, but enemies will often react realistically to how you kill them. Skeletons will crumble in the direction you hit them from. Lightning strikes leave behind charred corpses, while heavy boulder attacks leave behind crushed ones. And I know that's all fairly standard stuff that we expect to see from a AAA game, but it's details like that that help make this gameplay loop so satisfying and keep it from growing stale. Which is great, because there is a ton of content to sink your teeth into here. Diablo isn't as narrow-minded as it used to be, and has gone full open world with this iteration, complete with its own side quests, events, dungeons, and world bosses. Getting lost exploring the map and doing side activities can double or even triple your campaign length. But playing Diablo just for the campaign is like going on a date solely for the dinner. You know, nobody wants just the dinner. They want what's after the dinner. The dinner can be incredible, the best meal you've ever had. But if the after-dinner events suck, your date isn't gonna be like, no, well, I don't know, maybe I'll give him a second chance. His personality sucked and he was awful in bed, but he sure did pick a good Olive Garden. Now, as far as the endgame goes, maybe do a little more research beyond this video to decide whether or not you want to play it. Look, I'm no Diablo super nerd, and Path of Exile was a little too intense for me to get too deep into. So I'm not really a very good authority on whether or not Diablo 4's endgame is good, because I don't really know what separates a good ARPG endgame from a bad one. Not in the way real Diablo fans do. You know what I mean? Like, there is a massive difference between me and the people who really care about the endgame. I know that's like the worst thing you could possibly hear in a video game review, but I'm hoping my jokes can make up for my lack of information. IGN says the endgame is good, Reddit says it's bad. Do what you will with that info. I'm having fun. Not that that should mean much to you. But before you start spritzing your cologne and rushing out the door to go pick this game up, you should know that Diablo 4 is an expensive date. Oh, this is a classy broad. $70 up front. She's a sophisticated gal. She's got standards to uphold. And so you go, okay, $70. Show me a good time. And she does. But then you know a girl's gotta eat, so she goes, Daddy, can I have an allowance? And you want to treat her right, so you say, sure, $10 every 3 months for a battle pass. But then Diablo 4 goes, well, your friends are coming over later. Don't you want me to look nice for your friends? Don't you want your friends to see me in my new $30 skin? And you go, $30? Jesus Christ, Diablo 4, I can go out and buy an actual real outfit with that much money. What are you doing to me? And she goes, well, my dog's gotta look nice too. $15 for horse armor. And then date 3 comes around and she's like, well, I gotta tell you about this sketchy past I have. And you go, sketchy past? What do you mean, sketchy past? And she goes, I just got a little bit of a sketchy past. It's no big deal, just some sexual harassment accusations, workplace misconduct, company mismanagement, and abuse, okay? And I kinda got this cousin who used to be real into gambling and ripping people off, but he's clean now, he's reinventing himself. He said he's done relying on others, you know? He wants to live a solo experience. He's got stories to tell, and he knows people want to hear him, so he's gonna focus on that. Oh, so he's gonna take some time for himself? Nah, he's not really doing that anymore. Actually, he's just gonna keep relying on others. I mean, maybe he'll tell a story or two for some cash, but I think he's mostly just gonna stay unchanged. Anyway, his name is Kevin 2. I can't wait for you to meet him. Wait, why is he Kevin 2 if he didn't actually change? Well, you know, he told people he was gonna change when he added the 2 to his name, and, you know, it'd be pretty embarrassing for him to go back now. All of this is to say, there's some, well, we'll say moral hurdles you might have to overcome when deciding whether or not you want to commit to this possibly abusive relationship. Thankfully, the game's shop isn't very intrusive and completely ignorable. But if you're afraid of being tempted into buying things, then just play the Druid and you'll look like a bear for the majority of your playthrough. Fashion FOMO solved. Plus, at the end of the day, your bone boys will think you look cool no matter what you're wearing. So, to answer the question, should you date Diablo 4? Though I can't really speak for the hardcore crowd, Diablo 4 does seem like the game fans have been waiting for. If you enjoyed your summer fling with Diablo 3, then you'll definitely love Diablo 4. Its gameplay is more satisfying, its graphics are cleaner, and there is an insane amount of content to sink your teeth into with the campaign alone. If you were disappointed with Diablo 3, then this game seems to take measures towards alleviating some of the gripes you may have had. On the scale that I just created right now, I think I'd give Diablo 4 an engage. I think proposing to Diablo 4 is a safe move, but make sure you keep your wedding date TBD. The content that's there is fantastic, and well worth the asking price in my opinion. But Diablo 4 keeps bragging about how it's gonna take you out on all these fancy new dates and expand its horizons and maybe even take a couple new classes in the future. And nobody likes to hear empty promises. So if you're somebody who cares a lot about how well a game is supported post-launch, I think you would be totally justified in waiting a few months to see just how well Diablo 4 keeps those promises. I think this game is going to live or die by the quality of its updates and expansions, and if they're good, then you'll have my blessing to put a ring on it. Thank you guys so much for watching my little comedy review of Diablo 4. Like I said, I'm not like the most hardcore Diablo fan, so I didn't really want to get too much into the endgame stuff, because I know a lot of people are very particular and intense about that. But if you enjoyed the jokes, if you enjoyed the format, let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see more Should You Date videos in the future. I had a lot of fun with this. It's, definitely a first version of this format. We've got some kinks to work out, but I hope you guys found it funny. I hope you guys found it relatively informative. And yeah, as always, like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys next time.